Okay, so we have quite a meaty topic to discuss today. So today we're going to talk a little bit more on carbs, insulin, and fat loss. So the three are all connected. The reason we're talking about this today is because I talk a lot about carbs during our chats, and a couple of people have wanted a little bit more information on the topic. So I thought we'd dive right in and we'll go into a bit more detail on it. So let's talk. So this is for you. If you feel like you're doing all of the stuff around health and fitness, you're eating in your calorie deficit, you're doing your workouts, you are doing all the things that you should be doing to lose weight, but you're just not making any progress. Or maybe you've hit the age of 30 and the same things that used to work for you now aren't working. Like it's not working for you. Perhaps you can't get out of this craving carbs and sugar all the time and you want to reach your sweet snacks. If any of these sound like you, then listen up because this is where you need to be and things you need to hear. By the end of this workshop, what I want you to be able to understand is essentially how carbs and insulin impact your energy, your cravings, and your fat loss. And I want to educate you a little bit more on how to use carbs strategically and when to use them too. So let's understand a little bit more about carbs. So carb, as we know, is a carbohydrate. So you might have heard over the years, like, oh, eat carbs, don't eat carbs. You don't have to give up carbs. Oh, you've definitely got to give up carbs to lose weight. Like, there's a place and a time for carbs for sure. But also, there's a time when perhaps you don't need to be eating carbs. And we'll go into that in a bit detail. So first of all, let's understand the carbs and what they are. So a carb is your body's preferred energy source. There are three different types of carbs. So three main types of carbs. You've got your simple carbs. So for example, you've got like the sweets, pastries, white bread, quick energy style carbs. They're really short-lived, so like intense energy, and then it crashes a bit. Then you've got your complex carbs. So your complex carbs are like oats, brown rice, and you've got like your whole grains. So they give you a steady, slow release of energy. And then you've got your fibrous carbs. And they're really good when they because they support your digestion and they also help blood sugar control. So when it comes down to the carbs, it's really important that we're looking at the quality of the carb and also the quantity of carbs that we're eating, and importantly as well, the timing of when you eat your carbs matter. So just to give you a bit of an example of this, so if you go and eat something like white bread with jam on, let's say white bagel with jam on, you are going to get a fast spike of energy, and then that's going to come crashing down. So if you're doing like a short race or something quick and you need that fast spike of energy, then yeah, perhaps that's okay to eat. But if you want more sustained long-term energy, you want to be eating things like oats with Greek yogurt with some berries because that's going to give you more of a stable energy. Carbs, so like, but when it comes down to it, everybody says your body needs carbs. You don't need carbs. Your brain does need carbs to function, yes, but the amount of carbs your brain needs, your body can, in fact, make that from proteins internally inside the body. So carbs are convenient for the body. The body likes them because they're convenient. They're not actually essential to eat. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of energy because essentially they're quick to break down into glucose, so they can use them up immediately. They're super speedy to use, essentially. Your brain does need carbs, yes, but like I say, it's something that can be made internally. If you're eating carbs, yeah, your body will use that as its main source of carbs. But if that is not there, your body will make the amount of carbs it needs from protein to use in the brain, but your muscle and organs can go without. The body is metabolically flexible. And what that means is it can switch to other uses of fuels. If your carbohydrates aren't there, it will use something else as a fuel to fuel your body. So it can be very flexible in that way. So using fat for fuel, let's touch a little bit more on this because I can talk a lot about a low carb diet. And I do believe there's a time and a place for a low carb diet. It's not for everyone, it's not for all the time, but there certainly is a time and a place for it. So your body will start using fat for fuel. So when your carbs are very, very low or they're absent, your liver will convert fat into ketones. Your brain and body can use that as an alternative source of energy. So you might have heard of a ketogenic diet or a low carb diet. So essentially, a ketogenic diet, so your body is fat adapted. So it's in a state of using fat for fuel. And a low carb diet is essentially when you're dropping your carbs below 100 grams per day, ideally below 60 grams per day. That also enables you to prioritize your body using fat for fuel. The body becomes efficient at burning fat for energy when the carbohydrates are low and consistently low. So a linking topic to this is your insulin. So insulin, for if you don't know what insulin is, it's essentially the hormone that your body releases. So your pancreas releases the insulin after you eat a carb. Pretty much all food has an element of carb in it. So it's all got like a gram carb or so in it. But they just obviously have different varying amounts. So insulin moves glucose, so like the sugar in your blood, from your blood into your cells for energy and storage. When your insulin levels are high, the body is functioning and trying to move that glucose out of the blood and put it into storage. So its primary function when the insulin is high, your body's primary function when the insulin is high is to move the glucose. That's its priority. When the insulin is low, your body will then burn fat for fuel. So when your insulin is high, your body's not going to burn any fat. When your insulin is low, your body can then use fat for fuel. So what we want to aim to do is not obviously get rid of the insulin. Our aim is to prevent it from staying high all day. Because think of your insulin as your gateway to your fat loss. If your insulin is high, the door to your fat loss is closed. If your insulin is low, your door to your fat loss is open. So if we're keeping insulin at a high level all day, we won't be able to burn fat efficiently. So when we talk about blood sugar, you might also recognize like the blood sugar roller coaster. And refined carbs cause your blood sugar to spike, and they spike quite sharply. Your insulin is going to lower the blood sugar rapidly, and sometimes it will add in a little bit too much, so it will overcompensate. When that happens, that leads to a crash. And when your body crashes, you then feel tired, you feel irritable, and you then start craving more carbs. So that's when you come on that cycle of your energy being up and down and up and down. And you're on a cycle of you want to eat, then you want to eat carbs, then you get tired, then you crash, then you crave more, and you just keep going round and repeat. Chronic spikes keep insulin elevated. And by doing that, your body's prioritizing storage and not burning fat. So even if you're in a calorie deficit and you're eating the right amount of calories and you're in control of that. But your blood sugar is unstable, that can increase your hunger and your cravings, and also your body not efficiently burning fat. So, how do we eat to balance our blood sugar? So, what you want to be doing is essentially pairing carbs with protein and healthy fats. So, the healthy fats are going to slow down your digestion, and that is going to help control the insulin. So, it means that the insulin isn't going to spike. It's just going to have it controlled. It will go up, but it will have it in a controlled way. So, as an example of this, so if we're looking at what to swap in and out, I would always say swap white carbs for whole grain. If you're looking for your breakfast, let's go back to like the jam on toast example. Switch things like jam on toast or a sweet breakfast for like eggs on whole grain toast with avocado, because you've got those healthy fats being paired with whole grain carbs. So that's going to slow down the digestion and control the insulin release. You also want to choose high fiber carbs as well, such as oats, quinoa, beans, vegetables, fruit as well. Because ultimately you need the fiber around it as well. So you want to time your carbs around your movement. If you're going to eat carbs, your body will use them more effectively post workout. So you want to be mindful of that. You want to be prioritizing your sleep as well, because sleep, if you have too little sleep and you're feeling very stressed as well, then that can dramatically affect your insulin and your hunger hormones. Can cause your insulin to spike, and you get that tired, craving, hunger, and then you reach for the carbs again. So the aim of the game ultimately is to try and keep the insulin low where possible. So let's touch a little bit on benefit of a low carb diet, because like I say, I talk about it a lot. And sometimes as people join, they might not understand why I've spoken about it or understand the full depth of it. So like I said before, a low carb diet is not for everyone. It's definitely not for everyone. And it's not easy. I'm not going to lie and say, yeah, it's a really easy thing to do. It's not easy at all. In fact, I find it quite challenging. So the benefits of a low carb diet is that you get that rapid initial fat loss. But a lot of that initially would be your water weight. But if you're cutting carbs, you're reducing your glycogen stores in the muscles and the liver. But you will be lowering your insulin levels. So by going on a low carb diet, you're lowering your insulin levels, which essentially, as we now know, opens the gateway to your fat loss. You're going to have fewer spikes of energy and therefore fewer spikes of insulin, meaning your body is going to be burning fat more frequently. It's going to be in the burning fat mode. It's also going to, by you not eating carbs or by you eating a lower amount of carbs, it's also going to reduce your cravings for sugar and refined carbs. So that in itself is a win. And a lot of people will find that when they go on a low carb diet, that in itself helps them lose weight too, because they're not craving this sugary food. And they're not craving because they're not getting these crashes so much. So that in itself almost eliminates a food group that they would typically be eating, like the sugar, the chocolate, the cake. Just by cutting out carbs or lowering your carb level, you're not craving it so much. Therefore, you don't reach for it so much. So it's easier to stop binging on the sugary foods. A lot of people, when they're on the low carb, they'll find they have more stabilized energy and improved cognitive performance, and they don't always feel as hungry all the time, especially when they're having a higher protein diet. If you're eating low carbs, you need to be increasing your protein and you need to be increasing your healthy fats as well. And once they're both of those are going to keep you fuller for longer. So if they're both high, you're going to be fuller for longer. So you're not going to be getting as hungry. Therefore, you're not going to want to snack as much. You're not going to want to crave more. You're not going to crave as much food. So it's going to improve your satiety. But ultimately, like I'm not saying carbs are the devil, don't eat carbs. Absolutely not saying that. Like there is a time and a place for carbs, and there's a time and place for a low carb diet. So let's look at it from a performance aspect. Your body or survival versus optimum performance. From a survival aspect, your body does not need carbs to survive. Like we touched on before, your body can make the amount of carbs it needs for your brain's function because your brain needs carbs, but you can make that internally. But the rest of your body doesn't need them. As a human, we can live for months without them. Carbs make high intensity activity easier. So that's a benefit of eating carbs. So if you're going to gym, if you're perhaps training for something, then carbs can be a really efficient way to maximize the intensity you work out in a gym session. So glucose is the fastest fuel source for the muscles. That is why before exercise, if you have carbs, it's going to give you more energy, more fuel. If you have a lower carb diet, it might initially reduce your performance, particularly in, let's say, explosive movements, so jumping. Also, if you're doing weights, you might initially, if you're new to a low carb diet, you might feel and see a reduce in your performance. However, after 2 weeks or so of a lower carb diet, your body will adapt and you won't feel that fatigue as much. But if you want optimal performance, then carbs are very beneficial. So ultimately, your body will adapt. If the carbs aren't there, your body will adapt to start using fat as fuel instead of using carbohydrates as fuel or taken from your muscle mass. But all of this is based on where you are on your journey, what you're looking to achieve, and how you want to get there. Because, like I say, low carb diet is definitely not for everyone. It's a real challenge, particularly if you don't eat meat. So I don't eat meat. I very, very rarely, a couple of times a year, might. But I eat fish, so I can get by. I try not to eat too much. But if you're vegetarian, I think a low carb diet can be particularly hard, but it can still be done. So if you've got any questions on anything to do with what we've just spoken about, anything to do with a low carb diet, drop me a message and we can have a chat and I can help you and see if it's the right route to go down. Like I say, it's not you always have to be on a low carb diet. It's not an all or nothing thing. You can go on it for a period of time and then reap the benefits of it, and then you can add carbs back into your diet. But you will notice, it's so funny actually. So I dabble with the low carb side of things. Like if I want to lose weight, that's the route I'm going to go down. And people always say once you come off a low carb diet, your weight bounces back up. Like I've never found that. I haven't found that. You will add on a little bit more water weight, but ultimately it's water weight. But it doesn't mean like you come off that diet, you are going to bounce back up because carbs aren't the devil. Like carbs aren't the reason necessarily that you put on weight. Like that's not the reason. So if you want to chat about it, let me know and we can book a time to catch up and talk through a little bit more. But thank you very much for listening. I hope that has been helpful and beneficial for you. And look forward to catching you guys up soon. See you.